Car-Boyz! Yes, we're back. We're back with another episode of the podcast that doesn't have any pictures, and quite rightly so. It's not just budget constraints that mean we have no cameras. We're trying to get you to use the imagination of the mind. Well, that and the fact we have no budget. The Car Show on the radio, back with episode 22, or as we like to call it, Bishop Desmond, because the number really is just 22. Coming up this week, we've got all the news. That'll be tomorrow's fish and chip wrappings in the car news. And if you're old enough to get that reference, how are you using a computer? We've also got the mailbag bulging with contents as per usual, which sounds very foul. And we'll take a trip down some great roads from across the globe in lost highways, your favorite driving roads that the public need to hear about. And of course, we've got the quiz this week entitled The Price is Right About Now, Funk Soul Brother. A sort of smash between Leslie Crowther and Fatboy Slim. I'm only joking. Our car quiz tonight will be asking our lucky contestant to guess the value of a car based on the original price of the car. So a Ford Escort Mark II cost $2,999 in 1983. Will the same car be above or below that on the second-hand car market now? I'll be asking our lucky contestant, Simon Sujiwan, to come on down.
I could hardly wait. It sounds exciting. As my colleague mentioned, we've got just all the usual guff in the show this week. We're going to tackle the emerging classic in our classic car section, where often less is often better than more. A classic car that can be an absolute money pit. Well, here on Car-Boyz will prove it doesn't have to be. You can literally have your classic car and eat it. That's probably a poor analogy for that one. This week we have the Daihatsu Copen as the classic car. And as my co-host mentioned, we'll have all the usual tripe in here. We've got the post bag, the quiz. We'll be answering the age-old question of whether the man who buys a Citroen Picasso has really given up on life, and is he just waiting for the warm embrace of the grave? Go gentle into the good night. I'm Simon Sujuan, and if you want to change the situation, right people, right time, just wrong location. I've got a good idea. Just you keep me near. I'll be so good for. I can be so good for you. I'm gonna help ya. Love you like you want me to. I do anything for you. I'd be so good for you.
Well, you've had an effect on the crowd tonight. You've had an effect. Thank you very much, Mr. Dennis Waterman. Are you still driving the white Capri?
Yes.
Oh,
It's still running.
Did it have a brown vinyl roof?
I think it did, yes. It did.
Yeah, my uncle's had that. It was horrific. I'm Richard Green, and when I was little, I didn't want to be like Mike. I wanted to be like Ike, because Pepper was a Rolling Stone in the 60s. He liked green, like Bill Bixby. Yeah, boys? I am so from the hood. Fullback rap, rap. And this is
Car-Boyz.
Welcome to the show, one and all. Now, for my weekly rant, I went off last week into the ether about CPZs. And I've got an addendum to that, because obviously I was feeling some sort of vibe, because now CPZs are creeping closer to my own home. They've now announced they're going to be introducing them near my little local station, which is tiny. So they'll put CPZs in probably half a mile radius of that station. So all the cars will then park the other half a mile radius around that. So all the people that are currently able to park outside their own home, outside that CPZ zone, will soon not be able to. So well done.
My word.
Moving a problem from one place to another place. Now, my weekly rant, if you've never listened to this before, is where I turn into a miserable old codger and tell you that things were better during the war. Well, in my case, that would be the Falklands War, and I don't think they were. In fact, I heard a pensioner the other day bemoan modern society and state things were better during the war. But in their case, they were so old, it looked like the 1880 conflict in Sudan. Yes, rickets, malnutrition, child labour and cholera did make for a better society. Well, at least they didn't have the secret police back then. And that brings me to my big moan this week. It doesn't take a lot to get me going, but here we go. We'll be talking of a time when things were better in the past. It can't be applied to all times and all places. I don't think things were better during the Black Death. They're pretty awful during the Spanish Inquisition, where you had to love the right kind of Jesus. And certainly they weren't great under the iron fist of the communist East Germany for 40 years. This month, we're celebrating 3 decades of freedom for the people of the DDR, or the Deutsche Demokratische Republik, as they broke free from the Soviet stranglehold in 1989 and reunified with West Germany. They said bye-bye to Erich Honecker and bye-bye to the dreaded state police, the Stasi, who, it was estimated, had more than a quarter of the East German population spying on each other during the Cold War. One full-time spy for every 500 citizens. Well, it would appear that those days are returning to the leafy suburbs of southwest London. There is a strange app called Nextdoor, and it's a handy little thing. It shows you all sorts of interesting stuff. People post things they're trying to sell. They ask you if roadworks or offer their services as a handyman or sexually. It's a great cause, and in your local area, you find out all sorts of stuff. I even found my daughter's lost scooter using this app. A neighbour picked it up in the park, hence I had, after my daughter left it there, took it home to stop it being stolen, and then posted an update. And we got the scooter back, which was brilliant. But I digress. Anyway, my local locksmith posted something about civilians in high visibility jackets creating speed traps on my road of all places. As I previously mentioned, the whole of London now appears to be a 20-mile-an-hour zone. Great for the safety of pedestrians, but not so good for their lungs. But hey, good luck sucking up that carbon monoxide, folks. I was shocked, to say the least. I've never heard of any neighbourhood folk being recruited to help spy on motorists. Apparently, according to my locksmith, these people were pointing cameras and taking down number plates. So rather than show my neighbourly appreciation for their hard efforts with the help of a cricket bat, I decided that the pen, or more rightly the iPad, is mightier than the sword. So I did a bit of digging. It appears this scheme was rolled out in West London last year, and local busybodies, concerned residents, go out in teams of 2 or 3 with some plastic police, or PCSOs. Basically, if you're outside the UK, very underpaid security guards. Sometimes they get a real copper, and they record the speed of cars and take down registration numbers. It is called Community Road Watch. At first, like the Gladys Knight song, I was petrified. But then I started to do a bit more digging. And it appears that these speed traps have absolutely no place in British law whatsoever. The recordings of your speed are not taken to the police or any sort of court. If they find you speeding, they write you a stern letter. If they catch you speeding again, they write you another. And then another. Then after 3 letters, they send a local policeman to your house to tell you to slow down. To whom I would obviously be courteous, but also remind him that he didn't have a warrant, then we wouldn't be having any sort of effing conversation. Especially in light of the fact, after being bumped by another motorist in the rear some weeks ago, the police said they wouldn't be pursuing the case, even though she had left the scene of an accident. So no speeding ticket, no charge, no points, nothing on your licence, just the evil eye of your neighbour. Well, I'm sure that comes as a big threat to the serial motoring offender. Look, I've got kids, I live on a busy road, I do not want people to speed past my house at 50 miles an hour, but really, this will have no effect whatsoever, apart from targeting the mostly, and that's how it works in this country, law-abiding folk that think 20 really isn't quite fast enough for cars built in the 21st century. What I really want to ask is, haven't the police got anything better to do, like stop knife crime, catch murderers, rapists or serial killers? My friend is a policeman and says his inbox is always full of crime, so no shortage there then. So people, let's not turn into the Stasi of Eastern Europe and spy on our neighbours in an act which will not only alienate them, but apparently will be completely ineffective. Alternatively, we could just build giant walls across roads in south-west London, and I'll spend my time digging holes underneath them, like a poor man's Steve McQueen in The Great Escape. So that was my ridiculous news update this week, and my ridiculous little rant.
This is unbelievable. I'm actually looking at some of the reviews now. Lots of people swear by it. There's 25,500 ratings on the App Store that I'm looking at.
Do lots of people not just swear?
I thought it was for like tradespeople and things like that. But
what, next door?
Not. Yeah.
No, it's for everything. It's great. It's great. If you're really bored, it's great. It's people moaning about... I've managed to lose my cat down the drain. How could I get it out? It's people that you do find out how useless people are.
Yeah.
Like you'll get like somebody posting a picture of a brick and saying, "I need to cut this brick in half. Could anybody help me?" It's not a woman. This is a woman. I go, yeah, okay. Maybe you've never done DIY, but a guy. Okay, maybe go get yourself a cold chisel and a hammer. Borrow an angle grinder off your neighbour. Here's a mad thing. Drop the brick on the floor. It'll probably break in half. Yeah, you find all sorts of weird little things.
Apparently it says next door is for neighbours 16 years of age or older.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, it's not a wife swapping thing. That doesn't work. But
there's no section for that.
No, it's a good little thing. That you do get people saying, like, I found a wallet in the park. Do you know anybody know John Smith? And I think that's brilliant.
Yes.
It is also taking away the job of what used to be the police. Now, what's really infuriating me about this is that 40 odd years ago, the police were involved with traffic calming measures. They were involved hands-on with the flow of traffic. Central London would have policemen directing traffic. Police have nothing to do with traffic now. If you get an accident, Police will turn up, and they might turn up or they might not. They won't be involved in helping the flow of that traffic speed up. They want nothing to do with that at all. And now they don't even want to have anything to do with catching people speeding. I'm a bit busy. I've got a life. I do have the time to catch people speeding. Although many years ago, I worked as a car park attendant. Probably nearly 30 years ago. And I had a fluorescent jacket. And when I left the job, I gave the fluorescent jacket, it was like a big yellow-green thing, to my dad. And he used to cut the hedge outside his house wearing this jacket because it was really waterproof. And he noticed that motorists used to speed up a hill. They'd see this fluorescent jacket on the top.
Poking over the fence.
Right, this is great. So what he did was my mother threw away an old hairdryer and he cut the end off the hairdryer and put it in his back pocket. When he cut the hedge, if he saw a car speeding, he would point the hairdryer out at them. And they'd shoot down from 70 miles an hour, because he lives in the middle of nowhere in the countryside, down to about 30 miles an hour and keep their head down.
Brilliant.
A very bored man. He needed something else to do. Yes, that's what's happening in southwest London. Nobody's got far too much time on their hands, and we're all going to be spying on each other like the stars in.
And of course, no one is actually speeding because they're all looking for a parking space in the controlled parking zones,
which we can't find. Should we have some news?
Yes, let's go for some news.
Yes.
And this week, first off, in free electricity for the people car news, Volvo is offering UK buyers of its plug-in hybrid models a year's worth of free electricity in a bid to encourage them to use their cars as efficiently as possible. The take charge offer will be available to any UK buyer of one of the firm's 7 plug-in hybrid models until 30th of June 2020. Volvo now offers an electrified version, that's the engine, not the door handles, of every car in its lineup, with the plug-in hybrid versions of the XC40, XC60, XC90 SUVs and the V60 and the V90 estates, and of course the S60 and S90 saloons. All these models now carry the new recharge badge for electrified machines. The firm will record the total level of charge put into it over the course of the year using the Volvo On-Call app, which you can obviously download. With Volvo, and then giving the customers a rebate at the end based on the average price of electricity. Bjorn Anwal, Volvo's commercial boss, I was going to say he's the third member of Roxette, said the scheme was designed to showcase that plug-in hybrids can be sustainable stepping stone or alternative to full electric cars, and the fight the belief that many are bought for tax incentives and rarely plugged into charge. While Volvo plug-in hybrid models have previously carried the twin engine branding, that will be phased out in favour of the new recharge label, which will be also used for full electric cars such as the XC40 Recharge. Volvo is aiming for plug-in hybrid cars to account for 20% of its sales next year. This is a key part of a major push towards electrification and reducing its average carbon emissions. The firm is aiming to be carbon neutral by 2040. Volvo are really pushing this, aren't they?
Okay, so Volvo, the Swedish company, formerly owned by Ford, they're now owned by a big Chinese corporation.
They are?
They're going to be, I think that all of these things are going to be made in China. Okay. If you're Norwegian or you're Scandinavian, you want to drive something like a Volvo isn't that a contradiction in terms of electric? Electric doesn't really perform well in really cold conditions, does it?
Yes. And probably will take forever to charge as well.
Yeah. I mean, I'm talking conditions like in Russia or the far north of Norway in the Arctic Circle, where you've got a diesel car and you have to light a fire under the engine before you start it up. That's what I'm thinking. I don't really see the point of this. How much electricity can you use in a year? Now, my father's got an electric Merc that he drives around southeast London. It doesn't really go further than that. £6 to do a full charge, then 4 charges a week over a year. So at best, it's 1,500, which is what you'd negotiate off the price of a new car anyway. So this free electricity for a year is a bit big deal. I mean, 4 charges a week. I'm being generous. That's estimating full charge. Say, it's 300 miles. That's 1,200 miles in a week. You're not going to do that every week.
Was it 4 charges at £6? It's 12, £24
a week. So for £100, so £1,200 a year, max. So big deal. I mean, I'm sorry. Just financially, I mean, all right. If you want to drive an electric car, great. But I would want to negotiate £1,200 off the start price of a brand new car anyway.
Yeah. Doesn't really seem worth it, does it?
Not from a financial point of view. And I also don't understand. So it's now a Chinese car. It ain't going to start in the cold. What's your branding? Where is your thinking on this? I get it. If it was me, you've got 2 things here. If you live in the city, you drive in the city. This is like my friend's father who made the jump. He lives half the year out in Cyprus and he lives half the year in southeast London. He's retired. Right. He just went, all my friends are within 20 miles of me. I'll get an electric car, save money. Out in Cyprus, he's like, no, I've got a petrol car out in Cyprus. Because it's much where he lives is in the middle of nowhere. Where his relatives are up the Troodos Mountains, which is, there ain't no charging points out there. It's real rugged, and you need a petrol car. So why not just do 2? You can do more than one thing. They're saying, just going to do electric. I think this, from my point of view, this sounds like they're turning Volvo into a 100% electric brand, which means that the market that they're going to have in places like Norway is going to be dead. They don't care about that.
Ironically, Norway, that's very oil rich.
Strange that. Okay, moving on. In Rolls-Royce takes flack in China from a honky news. Rolls-Royce could soon, wait for it, it's getting good this, become under pressure at the top end of the luxury market from a little-known Chinese brand. Domestic-focused car maker, and it is pronounced honky, which in 2018 poached Rolls-Royce design chief Giles Taylor, is planning an attack on the pinnacle of motoring that will eventually go global. As part of the FAW Group, one of China's biggest car manufacturers, Honky aims to achieve this by leveraging a rich cultural and historical heritage that includes building the official government limousines, such as the popular L5, which we posted a couple of pictures of these on the internet. Honky was launched in 1958, making it the oldest Chinese passenger car marque. In Chinese, honky means red flag, a communist Chinese cultural symbol. Originally, honky models were only for high-ranking government officials, and they remained in production until 1981. The brand was revived in the 1990s. Platforms for previous cars have included a rebadged Mercedes, Audis, a Dodge Lincoln, and more recently, a Lincoln, and more recently our Toyota Century. But the new models are said to be 100% Chinese. Now settled in his role as global vice president, design and chief creative officer in Munich, Taylor told us that to build a flagship luxury car that would target affluent Chinese buyers who would traditionally aspire to own a Rolls-Royce. He told Autocar magazine, "We're picking up young customers with extreme wealth. They want to buy Chinese." Apparently. Taylor said of the honky brand, which was revived last year, but he insists that rather than cloning a Rolls-Royce, any honky flagship designed under his stewardship, will have its own distinct identity. Goddamn honkies. The new chief designer, Giles Taylor, went on to say, to find a new Chinese initiative and a digital way of crafting honky vehicles that will stand alone and not be accused of copying Rolls-Royce, which, traditionally Chinese car manufacturers have copied.
There's a load of cars,
in Europe and America. Chinese culture is the inspiration for the brand new identity, and confidently added that honky will become #1 luxury brand in China. Now, there's 2 pictures of the current honky. It does look amazing, the new one, and there's a picture of the last one. The last one price was more than twice the price of the Rolls-Royce, £750,000. Wow. Not that I have the cash, but I wouldn't pay. I'd be going for a Rolls-Royce, not a honky, despite the racism in the name. And thankfully, they didn't call the company Milk Toast or Goddamn Cracker.
It is an impressive vehicle. It's
it
got
does
the
look
big
nice. Yeah.
Rolls-Royce-esque grille at the
Yes.
front.
It's very grilled up.
Mm.
I can't think I'll be spending £750,000 on the car. I did see a review of the last honky that was £750,000, and it didn't come out well. Lots of things didn't work
Wow.
on it.
Yeah, and if you had that money, you'd go for the real deal, wouldn't you? You'd
I'd
go
go
for a
for
Rolls-Royce.
2 Rolls Royces,
Mm.
or a Rolls Royce and something else. But yeah, not for me. But never mind.
Okay. Ian, that's a shame. Electric car news. We do like electric car news. The Mercedes G-Class will eventually be fully electric, according to Daimler boss Ola
What?
Kallesen.
What? A
Was he not?
G-Class, fully
Yeah.
electric?
Yes.
Oh, this is insane news.
Kallinis, who I think was also in the Scorpions, confirmed the electric variant at yesterday's AMW Congress in Berlin. It's the first time the company has gone on the record to confirm the car. Little is known at present about the zero emissions G-Class, which is expected to be a number of years away. Other than that, it will swap the current diesel V6 and petrol V8 for a 100% electric powertrain. However, some details may be deduced from other Mercedes EV models. Following the approach used for other already announced models, the Mercedes EQ electric sub-brand, the new car will be sold under the name EQG and feature bespoke styling as a result. The electric G-Class is likely to be introduced with four-wheel drive and generate its power from 2 electric motors, one at the car's front and another given thrust to the rear, because we do like thrust to the rear.
Love it. Speak for yourself.
Although Mercedes has yet to release official specs, it's likely an electric G-Class will improve on the 282 bhp, which is 443 foot-pounds of torque generated by the standard version of the car. It will need to be as well because it will be considerably heavier.
Oh, yes.
In terms of range, the new car could sit somewhere between the 249-mile capability of the upcoming EQA and it expects to be longer, a 370-mile range of the EQE electric saloon. So hopefully it'll be an improvement on that. Mercedes has specified a launch date for the car, has not specified a launch date for the car, so it is only a long way into the future.
Okay. A couple of things. Currently in the news, the whole of Midlands and South Yorkshire is underwater. My mother is just sent me, literally just popped into my inbox, some comedy pictures of the River Avon all over the place. Right.
Yeah.
Now, I had a 4x4 after living in the centre of Bangkok for 3 years, where every 6 months, very hot place, but every 6 months it rains and there is no drainage in Bangkok.
Torrentially rains, I'm assuming.
Torrentially rains. Oh, yes. Like, I would sometimes come out of my apartment building to go to work and then walk straight back in and say, you got to give me 2 hours because currently it's waist deep outside my apartment building. And this is in the south. You'd see Mercedes E-classes just floating past.
Oops.
A 4x4 is perfect for that, but not so much an electric 4x4. Unless you're going to completely seal everything so no water gets into where the electrics are. Because that's going to be terminal for that car.
It's not good. They've not thought this through, have they?
I mean, it's great, but if you get if you get water near a diesel engine, yeah, as long as it's not going in the air tank, as long as you've got a snorkel, you can pretty much get a lot of water onto an engine. I know, I've cleaned a diesel engine before with a tin of gunk and a hose, and the thing started straight after. Last week, I managed to drop my iPhone into the toilet, and it didn't work after. It didn't work at all. It just stopped working. And then the lovely people at Apple said, well, you're buggered, mate. You need a new phone completely. Can't you fix it? To which they laughed in derision and said no.
There you go. So that's the analogy we're going to use about these electric vehicles. They're like an iPhone. If you drop it down the toilet, it ain't going to work.
Right. And now I'm going to read this, even though I'm sure this got you very sexually excited.
It did.
And in Fix Often and Repair Daily News, the dream of reviving the Ford Capri lives on with the company's European design studio, according to the man who leads it, Amco Leenaerts.
He was in a-ha.
He was. Take on me. He was a do 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 Here's Amco with a solo. You're drooling over this news, aren't you, Simon?
It is. It's good news.
Ford has recently brought back the Puma as an SUV, and it will soon revive the Bronco. Ooh, that sounds good. I like the Bronco. It's using the Mustang as an inspiration for its first electric car, leaving others to speculate what else the firm's rich back catalogue could create a modern-day version of. Leenarts, or Amco as I like to call him, Amco, some sort of trucking company in America.
Yes, cross-country. They're in the railways.
In the railways, Amco. Yeah. Oh, yeah, it was a railway company. Who would not want to bring back the Capri as the design when he was asked about rebadging and which models from the past would be used to inspire his design team? We love it. It's got to be in the Zeitgeist, though, to fit, and work as a plural, not existing as something for designer to bring back an old car. Leenarts took over Ford's European design boss 2 years ago, but unlike in the past when Ford gave names to the design language it pursues, he prefers a more open brief. We all like open briefs, let's be honest. It's been 8 years since Ford last launched a pure European concept car with the 2011 Evos, and Leenart said there were no imminent plans to return to making them either. A new Ford Capri would be amazing, though. Looking at the design concept, it looks brilliant. The wheels are bigger. It's a chunkier car. It looks sexy. The front end looks a little bit like an Alfa Romeo. The lights are set in. Would it be a hit in the USA? The Mercury Capri was sort of a hit, but I think the Americans were far too concerned with the Ford Mustang. I think it would be a massive hit in the UK.
The sad news is, though, this is something we've heard several times before. I've posted on the Car-Boyz Facebook group a previous concept of the Capri, which absolutely looks beautiful. They've all got the same curved rear window that Capri is infamous for. Hopefully they'll actually do, because they many years ago, I think it was about 95 when the Probe came out, they were touting that as the Capri replacement. But
yes, it never was it?
Yeah, and then after that, I think they had the Cougar. There hasn't been a proper Ford coupe since then.
In the both, I do remember the Probe, but I'm pretty sure it was front wheel drive.
It was, yes, because it was based on the Mondeo platform.
As was the Cougar.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got this car has to be a rear wheel drive car. If you want if you want people to not buy this, because I looked at that and went 3 Series Coupe. That's what you're up against. Audi A5 Coupe. So these things
rear
already
drive.
exist. Got to be rear wheel drive. Got to be 6-speed.
V6.
V6.
Got to be V6.
Got to be a petrol engine. I think it'd be a hit. I think you could release it tomorrow, and I think they would fly off the shelves. Absolutely. You know, as I picked my son up today, this lunchtime, we passed a 5-litre, or I should say a 5-litre Mustang went past us, and it looked beautiful. And of course, now they're over here on a proper right-hand drive as well.
Yes.
And I just thought, if you could do that, you don't really need a 5-litre engine for the UK. 3-litre would be good enough. I think Ford could clear up. I'm not sure they're going to, because from what I gather, Ford are going to make less and less and less models.
And they're moving more towards like the utility vehicles that can present in America.
Oh, we can but dream. Should we have some Lost Highways?
Or we could do classic car. Where's classic car?
Oh, it's classic car time. Sorry,
yes.
I got rid of it. Hang on. It's classic car selection. I've got some new music for this as well.
Exciting.
I think so. Well, I did have. Oh, yeah, here we go. This is new music for the classic car selection. Bit of flute. The classic car selection. Oh, we like that one.
I like it.
Yeah.
Also, later on in the show, we've got the letters and all that stuff, but we'll give you all the details later on. Classic car this week, we're going to be talking about... We had a bit of discussion about this off air. Do we call it Key or K car? Or Key K car?
Well, it's the Japanese, the small Japanese cars that are under 660cc. We had a listen on YouTube, and it's K.
The K. Okay.
This opening a door.
We're going to be talking about the K car, that is the Daihatsu Copen. which is all very exciting. The Copen actually was released. It did have the 660cc turbocharged engine to meet those requirements. However, since this engine did not meet environmental emission standards in several other countries, the Copen was then fitted with a more powerful 1.3 litre non-turbo from its sister, the Ciron, to use in markets in 2007. It was the cheapest proper roadster you could ever buy on sale, and this transplant meant that the Copen lost its genuine K or key car status, which, if you didn't know, the key car status meant lenient tax laws in Japan for microcars under a certain length with Tichy 660cc engines, but it provided more performance for less cash, which was always good. The Copen, if you didn't know, the name came from a combination of key-cast car and open. So that's how they got the name. Open for convertible, because it is a convertible vehicle.
I see. Clever.
Though obviously the name was changed from a K to a C for the convertible parts. Fans of traditional British sports cars should look favourably on the Copen, because it serves up the same thrills as MGs and Austin Healey's of the 1960s. Small cars, small engines, nippy and charismatic. Only this one has a folding metal roof and can convert to a proper coupe at a flick of a switch. The Copen is far from the most macho car around. It's quite cute, if you want to call it that, but it was quite capable of slapping a grin across your face with its no-nonsense simplicity at a bargain price. The Copen was never built in left-hand drive for the first 4 model years between 2002 2005. The right-hand drive Copen was officially sold in Germany to start off with between 2003 and 2005, with the smaller 600cc engine in that one. It's definitely very nippy. Around town, the Copen is excellent. You'll beat most cars off the lights with the nippy gearbox and the K-car dimensions, which is, if you didn't know, around it's 3,440 millimeters long. So what's that? That's 3.5 meters. No, it can't be 3.5. It's tiny.
Yeah, 3.5 meters, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And only 1.5 meters wide, which makes it a cinch to thread through city streets. The gear change is precise. You enjoy stirring that engine because you need to stir the engine in that because it's so tiny. Something you have to do a lot to get the best of the engine is flick through the gears. The chassis is well balanced. You can dive into a corner. The Copen will feel confident and planted around the bends, because we do like that sort of stuff. The ride is quite bouncy though. And you'll feel like you'd be going on a pogo stick around the corner. It might be at home on the twisty stuff around town, but it's not a cruiser at all. So take some earplugs with you, because it does get noisy at speed. They should have also extended the gearing on it, because it doesn't have 6 gears, it only has 5 gears. So what do you look for in a Copen? Well, the Copen, obviously, because it was designed for the Japanese market, salt is not used on Japanese roads. Therefore, only minimal corrosion protection is used on these cars.
Okay.
And when sold in the UK, the corrosion protection was not increased to handle the UK weather or salt on the roads. So rust is always going to be a big problem. The main problem areas around the rear wheel arches and top of the trailing edges. Some of them have had work done under the warranty on the affected panels, but always check there, and especially behind the front wheels. Rust can appear anywhere where there is a paint chip and it has been left untreated, so beware. Also, that extends to the alloy wheels as well. They corrode because moisture gets underneath the lacquer and they start bubbling up. The Copen alloy wheel has a polished face with painted inserts and holes. To refurbish them, to give you an idea of some of the costs, will cost you about £100 per wheel.
Yes, at least. That's what I mean. The same thing's happened to my Honda.
Absolutely.
Where the water's got under, and all the lacquer as I honestly don't think you should have painted wheels. I think it should be solid alloy. And my wheels look appalling. I mean, it is £100 a corner to get them resprayed.
However, if you don't want to spend that much, you could, of course, get a full face powder coating. We do like that phrase.
Yes.
Which could be done for £50 per wheel.
That sounds a bit better.
It can be inexpensive to treat it like that. Checking the boot underneath where the jack and the tools are kept, because moisture in the boot can collect there, causing rust to surface. The centre brake light on the boot lid can also allow water through to the boot, so check the seals there in case they've failed. So how much would you spend for one of these? The cheapest ones you can find can be picked up for about £1.5 grand. But I found a decent 2008 model with 46,000 miles on the clock, 1.3 engine for 3,990.
Whoa!
So just under £4,000.
And that's that's a newish car.
It is. It is quite cute, though. If you were 6 foot, I would say you probably wouldn't want to get one of these cars.
Your head's going to stick over the top, isn't it?
Yes.
Or get chopped off with a metal roof. I think they're cute little cars. I've always thought the Daihatsu Copen is a cute little car. Relatively fast, front-wheel drive.
Yeah.
And sort of does hark back to those frog-eyed Sprite days, I would hasten to
Absolutely. Although recently they did have a break from production, and now they've started to reintroduce the Copen, but it's got these angled headlights, like sort of triangular headlights, so it's lost some of the charm of the original one. So go for the Mark I Copen.
Yeah, why not? For that's it's a 10-year-old car, but that's a lot of car. Soft top,
metal rooftop.
Folding tin top. Nice little speedy car. If you just wanted something funky for the weekend. My mum's. It was mine. I think when my mother's neighbour retired, that's the car. They went out and bought a Copen. That was their weekend run around car, and then they had some old dog of a Mitsubishi for doing everything else. But that was the little fun retirement car they bought. Yeah, it's a cute little thing.
And of course, they're tiny, so if you're looking for your controlled parking zones, there's lots of places you can park them.
Exactly. Just over 11 feet, 3.4 meters. So just over 11 feet in length. So a tiny little car. Get it parked anywhere. Sounds good. Yes, I'm having this problem with the reference to the alloys. I've been quoted £100 a corner to sort out my alloy wheels, where the paint, the lacquer's all lifted off. You get any sort of scratch, water gets underneath, and it's just completely knackered. So, yes, I don't really want to spend £100 and then the next day accidentally curb the wheels.
Because at the same time, your car's unblemished in all the other areas. You want it to still look original and in that condition. So.
Yes. I might get it done just before I sell it. So at the moment, I'm just trying to ignore looking at them. Right. Well done. Nice little classic car. Let's do some Lost Highways. It goes a bit weird with the juice harp there. Anyway, that's our music for Lost Highways. Now, this is the feature where listeners email in and give us their favourite roads and the reason why they love them. Could be a little winding coastal road that passes your home, or a wild and mountainous drive that takes you through a range of mountains that would scare the bejesus out of a herd of Sherpas. I think that is the collective term for Sherpas, a herd, maybe a team. First off, Simone. What's your female opposite number in Barcelona?
Hello, Simone.
Simone says, why not try a coastal road in Andalusia between Malaga and Adra? She said it's only a few kilometres away from the highway that was built 37 years ago to take on some of the traffic from the coastal region. The old coastal road, the N340, glides along the Costa del Sol. It's hardly used by cars anymore. It feels like you're leaving time as well as kilometres behind. The ancient tunnels carved in stone seem far away from the fluorescent lights, turbines and the green emergency exit signs of the modern highway underpasses. On the N340, you leave the hectic flurry of the inner cities of Malaga or Almeria behind you as you drive along the coast in curvy lines. With a craggy rock to one side and the Mediterranean to the other, you could go from beach to beach along the route, stopping off for tapas or cerveza. There you go. That's quite cool.
Never been to Spain, but I do like the sound of that. From Spain, we go to Scarborough. With David, who writes in, he has just returned from a holiday in Croatia and hired a car to drive along the Adriatic Highway, or the E65, which is also a car by Mercedes, if I'm not mistaken. He says it's one of Europe's most majestic drives. It's one of the most hair-raising as well. Islands come in and out of view, and stunning Adriatic panorama stretch way out into the horizon. The main link between Split and Dubrovnik is busy in the summer and clogs up with tourists. The Magistrala will at one point be superseded by the motorway. Not quite yet. For the time being, single lane traffic with no dividing lane between northbound and southbound cars. Zooms around hairpin bends, do like hairpins, and scales heights of 1,500 meters. The
Wow.
Magistrala hugs the jagged coast now. Ooh, sounds scary.
It does sound a bit scary, doesn't it?
But does sound really fun.
Yes. I've done a similar coastline around the east of Corfu.
Oh, okay.
And it is good. You get some really good looking views. But then you get suddenly buses come around the corner driven by Greeks eating a sandwich, simultaneously smoking and using the mobile phone. Right,
Also,
maybe. Yeah, go
I
on.
was going to say, anyone else that also attended some of these roads? I know he says he hired a car, but tell us what car you hired as well.
Oh, yeah.
To drive
that'd
this,
be
what
good.
would be good fun?
Yeah, because it's always good to go on holiday and hire something really excessively over the top that you wouldn't drive at home, or
Yes.
the other way around, which I usually do because I'm cheap, is extremely underpowered. I hired a Fiat Panda once in Spain. It couldn't get up hills, although it did work when I turned the air conditioning off. With a 1.2 litre engine, couldn't get up the hill. Turn the air conditioning off. Oh, it's okay now. Yeah, you can email the Car-Boyz at car-boys, boys with a Z, at outlook.com. Car-boys, boys with a Z, at outlook.com. Adam from Los Angeles writes in about a great road in his state of California. The stretch of Highway 1 chases the ragged central California coastline through Big Sur, which runs from San Simeon to Carmel. Is he referencing you again? This drive is renowned for its staggering views over perilous cliffs, revealing the Pacific Ocean's white caps as they rush past immense dark rocks. During peak traffic hours, lumbering rental cars and motorhomes dampen the pace. If you're stuck in slow motion, we suggest a detour through the nearby but less travelled, here we go, Nacimiento Ferguson Road, which cuts east and offers an amazing bird's eye view of the coast below. Okay, I had to check this, but this is part of the PCH, the Pacific Coast Highway, so it's a classic, classic route. I'd love to do that. Although I hear with all the landslides they've had over the last few years, the Pacific Coast Highway might be disappearing.
Really?
Yeah, because the sections of it that the traditional of the Pacific Coast Highway is that one side is mountains, the other then you got a road, and then you usually have a few houses or a line of houses, all with beachfront properties.
Okay.
They've had landslides on this thing. I think now it's part of it is diverted away from the coast and they don't know whether they're going to be able to reinstate it. Because of the flooding they've had in California. I think it was about 2 years ago that they had all the flooding down in Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
It's really screwed up that road, which used to be able to take you from the bottom of California, from Mexico, Tijuana, up through San Jose, and then all the way up through Los Angeles, San Francisco, and then into Eureka right at the top. Some of that might. It's a classic driving road, but some of it may not be around for much longer.
Take care there, people.
Yeah, get there now while you still can. Okay, time to look at our correspondence in this week's Car-Boyz post-sack, as yet bulging, with all the usual mail. First off, Alicia in Coventry wants to know, should she buy a 2012 BMW 1 Series? She likes the look, she likes the badge, but will it be reliable? In a word, no. It'll cost you an arm and a leg to run. This is a very expensive car. If you love huge bills, go ahead. But this is not the car for you if you want reliability. And it's a great performance car. It's got a great wheel drive. Everything under the hood is a plastic. They have massive electrical problems with these cars. 2012 is 7 years. It's 7 years old. Good rear wheel drive car. There's a problem with the boot because part of the axle actually it doesn't protrude into the boot, but you've got a hump in the boot.
Right.
This is the BMW that looks like a bread van.
So you're talking about the hatchback version? Because I was going to say the 1 Series Coupe is really nice.
Beautiful looking car, very nice looking car.
Like a baby 3 Series.
Yes. The problem again is the reliability. I think this is its ongoing problem with BMW are not really tackling. I had a 3 Series and it cost me an arm and a leg. And I thought, well, maybe it was just me. Maybe I was unlucky. And then I met a friend who had the same thing. And he said, oh, no, it was a money pit. Lots of electrical problems. Of course, you've got the lovely run flat tyres, which are useless and don't
Give you
actually
a hard ride in there, and
hard
it's just
ride.
a fortune.
And of course, the giant 19-inch alloys, which will crack.
Yes. German cars are now no longer like how they used to be.
No.
Not when we were young.
No.
Should you have another letter? Or
Yes, please.
this time an email. This time it comes from Thomas in Oslo. Lovely part of the world. Been there. Big fan of huge, dirty, greasy, smelly, polluting American cars. Good man. He needs something a bit more reliable than a 1956 Cadillac. He's been offered a 2007 Lincoln Town Car in silver with 67,000 miles on the clock for $10,000. Is it too good to be true? Lincoln Town Car, that's the one the police use in America?
It's no, well, that would be the Ford
Crown Victoria.
Crown Vic, but you're not far off. It's on the Panther platform car. So it's the Panther platform that Ford used on everything for about 25 years. Great powerful engine. There's an awful MPG on that. Good acceleration, very comfy car. I had a look at this online.
Yeah.
That's really good value. It's really good value for the States. So it's very good value. I assume you've got to get it to Oslo. Make sure it's from a dry state, Arizona, Texas, Florida, California, not Nebraska or Illinois, because of the rust issues. But even in that case, as long as it's been looked after, it's been cleaned, you've got the salt from under the wheel arches, maybe stored it in a heated garage, it sounds like a quite good deal. Rust is the big issue. Get underneath it, get a look around the wheel arches, and it will be reliable. But I don't know what I think I want to say 25 highway, 15 to 20 in town. But
sounds probably about right. Yeah, and you obviously don't have the salt on the roads like we do. They just clear the snow out the way. Anything to prolong the life.
No, I think in America or in
Norway, in Oslo.
Do they not have salt on the roads?
I don't. I've never seen them. I've heard them do that, so I don't know if they do.
I know they do it in America and New York State and in Illinois. They do have salt on the roads, but when you mentioned earlier that the Japanese don't, I would have thought Japan gets much more snow than the UK, and we salt every 2 minutes.
It's an interesting one. If you're from that part of the world, let us know.
Yeah,
because we'd be interested.
But it's looks like why not go for it? I don't think there's nothing. That all sounds good. 12-year-old car, $10,000, which is about £8,000,
and much more reliable than your Caddy.
Indeed. Much more so. Michaela 2306 from Dakar, Senegal. Bloody hell.
Nice.
Right, she has a Renault 4 that's about 30 years old. Great car for African roads. When she shuts off the engine, it keeps running and eventually splutters out, but only after about 30 seconds or so. I had a Citroen that used to do this. It used to.
Yes.
You take the key out and you go.
It is quite funny when it happens.
You're walking away. The car's locked.
I remember those cars.
Now, this is a. I assume it will be Renault 4. It'll be a petrol. I assume it's a petrol. Did they make the Renault 4 in Italy?
I think it would be petrol, yeah. More likely to be petrol.
This is called running on. It's when the engine continues to turn on after you've switched off the ignition, because the fuel air mixture is being ignited by hot spot in the combustion chamber. Furthermore, the mixture is often firing at the wrong point in the cycle. The engine does not run smoothly, but jerks and rocks badly on its mounting. Sometimes you get a backfire. This used to happen to my Citroen. Check spark plugs, check your ignition timing, check air leaks, check if the engine needs a tune. This isn't, with a car now, I would say that's a serious problem. A car then, a 30-year-old car, that's pretty standard. Something is out. Could be spark plugs. Something's not quite, it just needs a tune.
And in those days, it would be, carburetor driven as well?
Yes.
So, find a good, reputable, older mechanic, because older mechanics know how to repair mechanical vehicles, not electric vehicles in electric ignitions. So,
and just say, could you check spark plugs? Could you check the ignition timing? Check for any air leaks, and just retune the engine for me. I think that's going to be. It's not a massive problem. Nothing is bad is happening to your car. It's just something that you need to. If you're, 30 seconds is a long time.
You're walking away and it's still alive.
Also, make sure you've got the bloody choke in.
That
could be the other thing. that I'm not saying that as a woman you would do that. As a man, I've done it. Is leave the choke out, but she could be running it a little bit rich. Just an idea.
Let us know. Give us an update on what happens with that one. Should we do our final one?
Let's.
Mark in Bolton wants to buy a very cheap camper van. Ooh, I say, for him and his girlfriend. What do you recommend? He has up to £3,000 to spend.
What do you reckon?
I was going to say that because they did a transporter version of that, but you seem to think stay away from VWs.
Yeah, the old ones. If he looks at a 1974 VW and he's only got £3,000, there ain't going to be much VW there. You've got to spend £20,000 on a decent VW camper.
So the microbuses with
the microbuses.
But I'm pretty sure they did a transporter version.
So it's basically, this is the van you're talking about. It's a van conversion. Okay, right, I get it. Yeah, that would make more sense. Relatively reliable. The other thing, it's an awfully slow camper, but then we're not going for speed. The Mazda Bongo was really cheap because it is so slow.
Okay.
It's a really super slow. It's effectively the Mazda Bongo was a van that they converted into a people carrier, and it's so slow. I think you might sit on the engine. Certainly, I know the gearbox feels like it's almost in the cabin with you.
Yeah.
There's a big lump there where the gearbox sort of sits in there. And maybe look at Honda, Toyota, Nissan. All those MPVs can be pretty good weekend campers.
That's a good point. So something like the big Previa? Is it the Previa?
Yes.
Toyota Previa?
Yes. I mean, you could get blackout windows for that. You can get stuff, and people have done conversions on them. Big thing to think about, and I would definitely, and certainly saw these a lot when I lived in the Far East. Yeah. In Thailand and Malaysia. Grey imports from Japan. The Japanese do a lot of day vans. That have got nice blacked out windows. Yeah. And of course, big Japanese, the steering is on the correct side, the right hand side. Sorry, Americans listening, not the left hand side. But we respect the authority of the Queen. And you see a lot of grey imports in the UK of that sort of van with super low mileage.
Yeah.
That or a Mercedes Sprinter conversion, Ford Transit conversion.
Yeah, I think they did. I think the Transits, they've also got something called a Tornio, which I think also you can black out the windows in. Yeah, it's doable. The parts pretty easy to get to as well. Sprinters, pretty much the same. Yeah.
Okay.
Again, Mark, let us know what you
Yeah. It's I know you can do that by getting in touch with the show with your questions. We'll try and answer them. We might get the wrong answers, but it's free. You can email the Car-Boyz at car-boys@outlook.com. car-boys@outlook.com. On Facebook, we're there. car-boys at Car-Boys. 4 Z's at the end. Car-Boys at Car-Boys. 4 Z's at the end, all one word at the end. Twitter, car-boys at car_boys with a Z. Shall we do a bit of quizzing?
Yes.
Hang on, I've got my music now. You're ready for this. This is your favourite music. Here we go.
I love this.
Time for the quiz now on Car-Boyz, your favourite podcast. Podcasting. That's right. The quiz this week is The Price is Right About Now. Funk Soul Brother. Let me take you back to a time when game shows were a thing and Leslie Crowther was a household name. This week on Car-Boyz, I shall be playing the role of Quizmaster, taking on that world-famous quiz, The Price is Right, although we've retitled it The Price is Right About Now, Funk Soul Brother, for obvious issues of copyright. Now, the idea of the quiz is that people paid a lot for cars in days gone past, but those cars, are they still worth something today? In 1958, a Rolls-Royce was still worth a king's ransom. Or is a 1982 Renault Fuego worth less than nothing compared to the turbo price it commanded back in the day? Well, the former is probably still worth a bit, and the Renault is mostly scrap. So, is their price above or below the original cost of the car? Joining me this week from the beautiful paradise of North London is local lad Simon, who's hoping to win a speedboat, a set of carving knives, or a cuddly hostess, Charlotte. How are you feeling today, Simon?
I'm good. Can I not just have a cuddly hostess?
Oh, super, smashing, great. Now, the prize on offer this week is life insurance cover from Sun Life, including a free park event. You can't get better life cover than that. Valued in excess of £10. I hasten to say only a week's worth of cover, so you've got a week to die. So, let's play for prizes. Now, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Here we go. Ford Probe, valued £14,000 in 1993 for a good one. Now, the car is worth above or below that amount now?
Ooh, not so popular now. And if they're probably rusted away, I would say below.
You are correct.
Yay!
The only Ford Probe we could find was a 1996 car in A1 condition for sale at £3,500. So one correct there. Moving on, back to the late 60s. Austin 3 litre from 1968, or the Land Lobster. It sold then for £2,000, just under. Now, is the car worth above or below that amount?
Oh, I would say that's having featured on Car-Boyz last week, I think it was, or the week before. I think it'd be worth more now.
You're correct. Above. A good condition Austin A 3 litre is worth around about £4,000.
Ooh.
Now we move to the late 1970s, a 1979 Fiat Strada. It had a top-selling price of $3,700 back in the day. What is it worth now? Is the car worth above or below that amount?
It's being Italian, it's probably fallen apart, so I'd say below.
Yay! We're on a winning streak here. You are correct. Despite the fact they are a rare car, they also rust buckets. We found a classic one with super low mileage for £3,000. Okay, it's time for big baggy trousers and shoulder pads. The 80s, a 1988 Rover Vitesse, top of the Rover fleet.
Yes.
Huge
vehicle.
800. It had a top-selling price in the late 1980s of £19,000. I think we know what it's worth now, but let's not spoil the game. Is the car worth above or below that amount today?
So let me get this straight. The Vitesse was it was kind of like the 80s version of the is it the P3, P1, the old Rovers?
P5, P6, yes.
Those are the ones. Again, I think it's fallen apart. I think less. It's got to be less.
You're correct. Below, but not by as much as you would have thought. Now, 10 years ago, you definitely could buy one of those cars for £500.
Right.
But they are on the rise. We found a mint 1989 example. They're going the way of the Ford Escort. £4,500.
Ooh.
I would not give you £500 for one of those cars. But apparently, the velour seats, the wood
crushed
interior,
velour,
it's on the rise. Okay, we go to 1970. Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow, the Jimmy Savile and the Jimmy Tarbuck car. Back in the mists of time, that was worth $9,975 brand new. What is it worth today? Above or below that price? So it's the car. It's frequented by game show hosts and famous celebrity paedophiles.
Yes.
It was worth £9,975 in 1970. What is it worth now?
I think this could be a trick one. This one can go either way. Tarby had one.
He did.
I would say
Bruce Forsyth had one.
He did. I would.
Hometown.
I think this is going to be a trick one, so I'm going to say below.
Again, 20 years ago, this car was worth nothing more than £3,000. But to find a good example, you've got to spend more than £13,000.
Wow.
Amazing. Right now, moving to the 1990s, and specifically another executive car. This time, even more bespoke. I don't know about executive. I think this is more like royalty. 1998 Bristol Blenheim. Okay, so if you're listening in America or probably outside the UK, what the heck is a Bristol Blenheim? Really bespoke, handcrafted cars. And Bristols, you see them. I'd like to see more of them, but I see them few and far between. But let's not talk about my personal life. Bristol Blenheim. in 1998, 21 years ago, sold for £119,000. £1,000 short of £120,000. What's it worth now?
I think
1999.
this is a tricky one.
Very tricky. They do not make many of these cars. You see them on the roads. We know Bristols hold their value.
They do. So in that case, I did see some Bristols in the Filton Museum recently. Yeah. No, they're forward. I wish. I would say above.
You are correct. 20 years ago, this car, was worth 119,000 above. They are, for a Minter, £125,000 because not many of these cars about, hence the price. That was for a Minter, a rare car, £125,000. If you're listening in America, go and investigate. I haven't got really time now to talk about the Bristol brand, but it's a very interesting company that made cars and then went away to make aircraft engines, then came back and still continue to make cars and continue to sell. Less rare now. Lexus LS200, probably cheaper to keep on the road than a Bristol. Brand new in 1999. This car was £19,000. What's it worth today?
Japanese. I don't think there's really a market for that, so I would say below.
Well done. Below, we found a very nice clean model with one owner. 87 on the clock. This should be a classic car. 2,350.
Okay. That's a lot of car for that price.
Yeah, LS200. Okay, back to the 1980s we go with Triumph, their swan song sports car. I know they did the TR8, but it was effectively a TR7. It's the TR7. In 1980, this car sold brand new for £6,361. The same car today, is it above or below? Above or below that amount? 6,361.
The TR7 looked like a lump of cheese, so I
Indeed.
think with age it probably goes a bit rotten. I would say below.
I'm afraid they're still on the rise again. This weird obsession for fairly recent British classics. You can find them below this price, but for a good one, you got to spend about £8,000. We found one on the internet, almost 20.
Wow.
The block of cheese is back. Okay, time for the penultimate question, and we cross over the Iron Curtain with the Lada Riva. 3,495 brand new in 1989, which is very cheap back then. In fact, one of my dad's friends bought one of these brand new. Is a good one now above or below that price? £3,495. Above or below?
It's advertising campaign with Cannonball, but that was a Samara, so I would go with below.
Below. You are correct. Well done there. Yes, they were very cheap cars to buy. The Soviets continued to make them until 7 years ago. They ain't pretty, although some older rare models you will pay more, but really you will struggle to pay more than £3,000 for one of this vintage. So it hasn't really lost any cash as long as you've kept it in good condition. And they were tanks, absolutely. Right, here we go. Final. We stick to the 1980s. We go for a 1984 Saab 900i, a state-of-the-art car at the time, worth then £8,510, but is it a classic car or a rust bucket now? Is it worth above or below that price?
It's a Saab, and they don't make Saabs anymore, and I think they're probably as rare as hen teeth, so I would say above.
I'm afraid it is below.
Shocking.
Saab have gone, and it's going to be hard to find parts, and time hasn't been kind to the cars of the 1980s.
Oh, no.
We found a stunning example with a soft top, 1988, for sale, 4,600. So if you fancy a Saab, now is the time to go and buy one. Well done there, young man. You walk off with the grand prize of a week's worth of sunlight insurance. You can't get cheaper than this. I hope you've had a lovely time here with us at the quiz.
It's been great. It's been fantastic.
Has it been super smashing and great?
It's super smashing great. Yes.
Oh, I love it. I just shut the. Thank you. Shut the audience up. We've had enough out of that. So that's yes, absolutely. So well done. Yes, you're 7 out of 10. You walk away with a grand prize. That's about it from the show this week. Thank you very much for tuning in via the Tinterweb. We will be back, usual place next week. You can email the Car-Boyz any questions, any comments. car-boys at outlook.com, boys with a Z. That's car-boys with a Z at outlook.com. Facebook, we're car-boys at Car-Boyz, all one word, 4 Zs at the end. Twitter, car-boys at car_boys. That's about it from us. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you.
Say goodbye, Simon.
Goodbye, Simon.
Bye-bye.